Good morning, Math 3 students. This is your Week 7 Lesson 3. And today we're going to look at all of the Pythagorean identities because sine and cosine aren't the only two that come together to equal 1. So all of the Pythagorean identities are listed right here at the top. Cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1. 1 plus tangent squared is equal to secant squared. So getting some of the reciprocals in there. And the last one, 1 plus cotangent squared is equal to cosecant squared, which hopefully makes sense since those two are obviously related. So yes, of course, we can use these to find some missing values, but we can also use these identities to reduce or simplify other expressions, and ultimately it makes it easier to solve some equations. We're not worried about solving equations today. We are going to be working on simplifying or reducing some other expressions. When you get to pre-calculus, this specific topic and many other identities that are out there, just not Pythagorean identities, are going to be super useful for something called trigonometric proofs. And it's not the kind of proofs that you might be thinking of that were similar to Math 2. These are actually fun proofs, really fun proofs. And so I'll show you what we're doing. It's very similar to what you'll do in pre-calculus. So simplifying, this technically is a trig proof. Simplify this down to a single trig function and make sure that we don't have any denominators. So basically keep an eye out for reciprocal functions. So here in example 1, it says secant squared of x minus tangent squared of x. It's not an equation. We're just trying to reduce this expression. So if we look up here in our Pythagorean identities, we have a couple of problems that do use both secant squared and tangent squared. Okay, so it's the second identity right here. Well, the way that it's written now, it's equal to secant squared. So we don't have to change anything, but down here in secant squared, we could take secant squared out and replace it with the expression that it's equal to. So that's 1 plus tangent squared of x, since this one is using x. And then, of course, the minus tangent squared of x is here already. Well, by doing this substitution, now all of a sudden we have tangent squared minus tangent squared. Those are identical. So, yes, of course, they cancel out. They zero out. And this thing is equal to 1. That's a Pythagorean proof, using some substitution to reduce or simplify an expression down to a single item. In this case, it happens to be the number 1. Okay, so let's take a look at example 2. 1 minus sine squared of x. Widget really likes trig proofs as well. Come here, honey. Okay. Let's get that to refocus. There we go. So here in example 2, we've got 1 minus sine squared of x. So we have exactly one Pythagorean identity that utilizes sine squared. So it's that very first one. Well, the way that it's written right now, it's currently equal to 1. Well, we do have a 1 in the equation, so we don't have to rewrite this one. We don't have to rewrite that identity. So we could take that 1 out and replace it with what it's equal to. So cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x takes the place of the 1. Then don't forget we have the minus sine squared of x down here as well. So that's still present. Well, when we see it written this way, well, we have a positive sine squared and we have a negative sine squared, and those cancel out. So this is equal to cosine squared of x, and that's our one and only trig function. See how easy it is to simplify things when we just substitute with something that's equal from our identities. Last one, example 3, cosecant squared of x minus 1. Well, only one of the identities uses cosecant squared. So if we take it out and replace it with what it's equal to 1 plus cotangent squared of x. Cotangent squared of x. And then, of course, the minus 1 is hanging on the end. So when we see what we have down here, the 1 and the negative 1 cancel out, and this is equal to cotangent squared of x. That's our one single trig function. So that's what these identities are asking you to do over on Delta Math, just to simplify, just to reduce by doing some substitution. So take these identities, take these examples, head on over to Delta Math, and practice these problems.